Hello folks, welcome to the program. I am your Happy Healer, and it is a late program on the East Coast right here in HappyHealerLove time, but on the West Coast maybe you're still up. Yeah, I'm a bit strong for a lot of people, and I come on strong. And so doing media for me is the right decision. I can explain that truth in doses for people, and I can help people. That's my goal. So during this program, I have quite a bit I want to discuss, but right off the bat, we'll just kind of open things up. And I am your Happy Healer. You never want to forget that at the core of it, my goal is always to provide value back in your life, because we all serve each other. We all are here for each other. And if we lose focus of that, that's when we lose focus of everything. And as your Happy Healer Love, I am your mind fixer. What am I trying to do? And what is at the center of our human experience? And my goal is to live a life of pure love. And I have more programs coming out just on that. And it always gets better with me. And you'll see that it just continues to always get better. And we're out to help people and to give them a fighting chance of real happiness, and to let them know that the greed is a big fat liar, and that we don't have to accept this large level of greeds just because of our tiny impurities. We have to put our stock and raise one up that is not accepting of that, but at the same point, humble. I am no better than you. And if I am allowed to love and do this, it's because you get it. And that's the only way that love can ever have a chance for leadership. So we need to have love lifted. I say, let our one soul come together, use my body, prop me up, and make me powerful so that I can then return that power back to you. Of course, minus my cut, because we don't need that greedy cut. We just do good work and have our sustenance and happiness and build a better world where people have so much more than what they currently have now. And that's the problem. And I have a strong business background. And I understand from the drug addict's perspective, but also from the CEO's perspective, to the single mother, to the businessman. I am him, and that makes me the kind of perceptive candidate, and that we need a loving leader. And I get that I'm not of all of your perceptions, but that together we are one spirit, and we're working for our betterment. And we have to respect both the individualist and the collective. We have to know that both are there. And we're seemingly forgetting about both of them right now. And that's the difference between love and greed. Greed takes all and leaves nothing. And where love, it takes small, just so little, and leaves everything. It takes nothing, really. It just gives. And that is really what your Happy Healer is in it for. And you know that. Those of you who know me and have been following my story know that. And so again, I want to talk this evening about how I am your mind fixer. And when it comes to being your mind fixer, what do I mean by that? I'm your friend. I love you and I care for you. And I have my own perceptions, and those perceptions are so important. I've been through so many things. As a 40-year-old man, I have been through more perceptive qualities that represent the American people than most. I have lived up north, born in New Jersey, Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I have lived a happy life until the age of 10 years, and of course, have had it hard growing up, but also have had times where we have understood that through hard knocks, we can make ends meet. And you Americans who have been through those particular set of circumstances, I get you. And I know what it's like. And I know what it's like to be a gay child growing up in a rural family that is in the country, that makes it so hard for that individual to even find hope. I get that. That's the story of your happy healer. And I didn't come out until I was 26. And now look at this, right? I always loved God so much, and I always knew my self-worth, even when I was younger, even when I was, before I even could remember. I always knew, and I've always asked those big questions, and it's in us, either all of us as children, and you see it even in today's children, how curious they are, and then we lose that. But we have to learn something from that. My fellow Americans, we have to learn. We have to learn. Because, you know, your happy healer has a lot of things to teach as well. And the things that I've been through, they mean so much to me. Those experiences, so I get what your experiences mean to you too. And that's why perceptive matters so much. Your perception matters, and you matter, and we all matter, and we all have purpose and value that goes to the core of our being. It doesn't matter what anyone else says or think, because at the end of the day, when it's just you and your maker, that is a dark place. And all you are worried about are the things that you could have done for love. Trust me on that one. In those meaningful relationships, stars will tell you, celebrities can tell you, people who have had that fake love can tell you, it comes and goes. A greedy love doesn't stick around. But what we're talking about is real love. That's what we're all after anyways. That's what celebrities want too. And we all crave it. We all want that attention. But we have to go into a new way of thinking. And my fellow Americans, my poor fellow Americans, so confused. And I get you, so confused. And we're all so confused by what they have done. But you need not be confused. We're family in this, and that's what love does. It carries us up. It carries us up even when everything drops us down. We have to come together in that love. And I have so much in this story you are just going to continue to learn from and build from. And I want you to take that gift. It's so important. It's the only way to get into that mind and to say you are so perfect, just the way you are, and that I am so perfect. And I knew that even before I lost my 125 pounds. You better believe it. We can have that light in our lives working for us. And it can be so grand. And it can really undo the damage that this world has been doing. So when I come to you, that's the gift I give you. I give you a new perspective. One that includes the truth of the unbiased broker, the one that has been staring into the light and staring into the darkness for eons, saying, "This is the way," and finally has a voice, that one. And that truth is so clear. My goodness, it's so clear. And when you start to get the vision, it doesn't go away. It's not like these other visions. They fade because they're fake. Because for this vision, all you ever need is love. Love really does work like that. That is how I became your happy healer. And I am indeed your happy healer, because that is a role I have taken on to the core of my soul, and I will continue doing that for all of my life and serving humanity in the capacity that God allows, and I'll be grateful for whatever that is. Always. And that's how we all need to see that. I want to get into this now. When I was a kid growing up in Romeo, Florida, it was really difficult on your happy healer. First off, we were raised 6 kids. And my mom and dad, they were poor. They didn't have much. Especially when we came down from New York. We came down and the year was 1990. Think about that. It was a long time ago. I was born in 1978, and it was a different world, even then. And we remember. That's why I often talk about the promises that were made to us then, and how those promises have been broken, and how they've been broken for so long. But forget about that for a moment. This is about your happy healer's upbringing, and we have so many videos and so much that has already come out, and we have so much to say that I don't want to spend time repeating so many things. And the story of my story, I haven't really talked about much, despite there being hundreds of videos out there, because it never mattered until I could tell you all the things that makes me qualified to be in front of you in the first place. And that is what love does. It says, I want your attention, but I offer you tangible value. And that's what love is. Love is that attention, isn't it? Isn't that what the superstars are after? And celebrities and all of us? Isn't that on Facebook what likes and what all of those little clicking and all that means? Isn't that what that really means? We are all after that attentive counsel and love from one another, and we almost always fail to get it. And that's the sad part about this world. It leaves you so empty. Where are all of the people? Where did they go? Have you ever asked yourself that lately? I remember even on the gay sites, I'm a gay man, I just remember, how come there was more people to talk to that were online? It used to be, and that there's less now. And yet the world is growing. People are losing their humanity. And we better get back there quick, because this is a battle between love and hate, not evil and... I'm sorry, it's not evil and love. It's love and hate. Get this, love and hate. It's not that evil and goodness stuff. Love and hate, okay? And you have to remember that, because a lot of people, they get that confused. And the fact is, we are in a serious time in history, and people are not showing up for whatever reason. We know that they're there, but their care is gone. That's the part that I'm so concerned about. We have to bring that spirit back in. Guys, that's spiritual energy. We need that spiritual energy, or we're doomed. Remember that battle between love and hate and greed? Greed is the big thing, really. It's against love. If you forget that greed does not produce, it can only steal from love. If you don't keep that in your mind and you continue to serve greed knowing it doesn't produce, think about that, because it's a big deal. And so many are doing without, because greed, it takes away. It's so chaotic. And we've talked about this. You want to go see some previous programs on that, because I'm going to try and stay on the mind fixer. I am your mind fixer, your happy healer. And here's the thing, I never tell you things that are wrong. If I do, correct me. We're in a truth movement here, a real one that makes common sense. It's so important that it makes common sense, otherwise you lose people. And it has to. People have been screwed for so long, and they're not getting that truth that they're craving, that they're going to anything that even resembles it. And look what we have. We have to do better. And we don't have much time. That's why I spend it on that. And then I don't even get to talk about myself as much because I care so much about these issues and they're so important. But let me get back to it. Growing up, I was in Romeo, Florida, and if you know anything about Romeo, it is in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there. And I remember way back then there was an old joke, and it was a riddle, and you might have heard about it. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But back in the 90s, I was a kid, and I remember the adults back then saying it, and I remember pondering it and what it meant, and then also applying it in my life now and what it means to me. And so we take these associations from when we were younger, and we see them and approach them differently when we get older. It's such a different way to experience our past. And we have somebody who was in jail for so long, who never got a visitor. And then finally, after never having gotten any visitors, someone shows up and speaks to this man. And he speaks to him for ages, is what it felt like the security guard had witnessed. And so after so long, the guy gets up and he leaves. And so the security guard goes up to the man and says, "You've never had any visitors here for so long. Why now? And who was that spending all that time here?" He spent a long time there. He said, "Brothers and sisters, I have none, but that man's father is my father's son." Who was that man? I'm going to pull this up over here for you. If I can get it on the screen, because there's a little diagram that kind of goes with this. You can see that right behind me, kind of. I want to pull out this diagram for you, because I love you. Okay, so here's the diagram. Brothers and sisters, I have none, but that man's father is my father's son. So we have me, father, my father's son. Let's see if I can move this over here so I have control of that mouse. There we go. Okay. And so here you can see it goes on a little bit further. And I'm not sure what these arrows are trying to say, but I'm going to break this down for you a little better. These arrows are not that easy to understand, to be honest. But there is a connection. And if you follow it, and I'll go over it with you here once I am able to move this back to the other screen. Okay, I'm going to read this to you the way it says. Before reading the answer, can I interest you in a clue? Let's break the puzzle down to smaller pieces and then put them back together again. And see what we've got. My father's son. We'll draw a diagram from the perspective of the person speaking. So, My father's son is my sibling. That man's father appears in our diagram already. We know him as my father's son. They are the same. Remember, that man's father. That man's father is my father's son. Think about that. I know it's a bit confusing. Brothers and sisters, remember that. I have none. So on either side, picture me as the speaker. Brothers and sisters, I have none. But that man's father, the one that just came and left, that man, his father is my father's son. Think about it. But if I have no brothers and sisters, then my father's son can only be me. Ladies and gentlemen, the connection there is I was alive and well and so curious in my youth, my gay youth. So hard for me to get through and remember the hardships only a gay person would understand. That was in that time frame. And even growing up now, it's just a bit different. That's why I say freedom fighters of before, of yesterday, always have to be appreciated. Ultimately speaking, we are God's truth. We are here. I am in front of you. That's how you know it's His truth. So, brothers and sisters, I have none, but that man's father is my father's son. It's me, the man who just visited. In a sense, we are all connected. You know this, right? The spiritual world makes it so. And it even shows through here, mostly through love. And in my teachings, what I show is the correlation between the spiritual world and the world right here. The one that's falling in hell. So many people are confused. And they really are. But they have their perception, and they have their honest broker of truth within them. They can be spoken to by an honest broker of truth, and that they can be changed for the better. So that's what I'm doing. That's my story. And when I was younger, I have so many of these anecdotes where defining things have happened. And I remember that just took place in a pizza parlor when I was like, I want to say right around 11 years old. And my mom, because there wasn't enough money to go around for all of us kids, my mother, she would pick one of us at a time and we'd go out with her, we'd go shopping, and we could eat with her sometimes. It would be fun because it wasn't something that we could do all the time. My mom, she deserved it. She had 6 children. My goodness, my mother was a fighter, and she had to put up with an abusive husband, which of course I love my father, but the facts are the facts, and it's tough admitting those facts, but we learn from them. And of course, that means our childhood was one that was hard and explains the childhood many of us have had. You know, it seems God gives some of us so many lessons, doesn't it seem that way? And the pain, it's just so real. And it doesn't matter if somebody has been through hell and back, and if you're just on your first time on the first go-around, for you, it is hell. I get that. And people suffering at any point, it could go to the end, especially in this volatile world. One little mistake can cost you your life, and we see it happening every day and all the time. And when your honest broker of truth, your happy healer, he speaks out to you it should be something we can all do and have that courage too. And to speak from that honest broker of truth standpoint. To say, I'm pulling all the shade away, just leaving the love, because that's what works. And I love you. I do love you. That has to count for something. I trust in that love. It serves me well. I didn't just get started on this. I've been doing this for a long time, learning how to appreciate people even when they hurt me. Even when they hurt me. And I have those stories and they're coming out. That's what I'm about. And so when I grew up, I got to Orlando, Florida in 2006. That's far, far, far after growing up. But let's just take it back to 1990. Let's just take it back to 1990. So we get down to Florida. And we're in Romeo, Florida. We get enrolled in school, me and my siblings. And I remember that time. I had never experienced a crush up until then. I was about 10 years old. 5th grade was my first year here. And before that, it was up north. Like I said, born in Atlantic City, New Jersey in 1978, November 29th. And then within the first 5 years, moved out to California and then Nevada, where we also had family. No, my father was in the military, but not during that time. And that we went back to New York ultimately in New Jersey. We stayed in Brooklyn. We stayed in various parts like Nanuet and well, I even stayed with my godmother up in New York, Stony Point. It's good reminiscing about the past, isn't it? Yeah. And so when I was in 1991, I went to 6th grade in Denellen Middle School. And that's the school that people that live in Romeo, they go to Denellen for their schools. And the next closest big city is Ocala, and Ocala to Orlando is a small city. It's a horse town. So that gives you an idea. And Romeo is 30 minutes outside of Ocala. Yeah, our closest neighbors were cows. It wasn't easy for your happy healer being in the closet at all. Having 4 brothers and a sister, and all of them are straight, and all of us are in that world. So I know all about it. And then in 1993, and I have so many stories in between these. I'm just trying to move this along a bit. I just want to give you a little timeline. And in 1993, I was in middle school, 7th grade, I want to say. And it was interesting. That was the year I met Jimmy Bozeman. Sorry, Jimmy, if you ever hear that. It's nothing to be sorry about, sir. Your happy healer loved you. And I remember, I was about 13, and I was like just coming to terms with my gayness. It was so shocking for me. And then it dawned on me that earlier I had known, even when I was younger, I figured that out at 13. I said earlier I was different from my brothers, even earlier, like way earlier. I remember differences. When I was in 2nd grade, I pretended to have a girlfriend for a long time. Now I know a lot of people do that, but I felt the need to do it, to like the same need that somebody trying to hide would do. And why? I don't even know that one. I think it was because it had something to do with my sexuality. Further, I also remember the differences in the feelings and the weird attractions as a child that you get. And that was what I experienced back then. Our human experiences are so important. And Jimmy Bozeman. Now, this is a kid at the time, myself just a kid, but his family was much more well off. They owned the Markhams, Well, Jimmy Bozeman had his mother who was a teacher, and she married into the Markhams, which were like a big peanut farm factory family out there in Romeo. They had all the money, and that's where them and the Hires, Buddy Hires, they were like the big Romeo people that I knew of anyway, and that they had their kids mixed up in our schooling. And so I remember, and Jimmy came to me one day on the bus, 8909, Miss Drake. And so every day we'd run to Miss Drake's bus, and we'd have our dog named Abraham. And Abraham would chase the bus and chase the tires on the bus and go biting after him. My goodness. Sometimes he ran onto the bus. He ran onto the bus actually and into where the bus driver's pedals were. So it was that Jimmy sat next to me, and I'll never forget, I liked him. I thought he was a great, great person. And it was my child's version of my first crush. My heart was in a chaotic mode. I never knew what that was. I was scared. Especially, why am I having these feelings? And I know the feelings then that I get at home, and they scared me more. The feelings I would get when I would take a shower. And then, one day, I get on the bus, and I'm seated there, attacked by my childhood feelings, the world, and all the bigotry. And you know, we hear about this stuff. Matthew Shepard. Remember, there were freedom fighters, folks. And I remember he came to sit next to me. And the way I responded was so horrible. I cursed him out. I said, "Get away from me! You!" I called him such bad names. And I felt bad about that. Ew. That was hard on my 13-year-old heart. I loved him at that age. And I'm a lover. I've always been that way. I'll never forget the shock I put into him because he thought he had a friend in me. But instead, I let my fear win. And that's exactly what's happening today. Except for I was a 13-year-old child surrounded in a grown-up's world that then they were using bigotry to keep me down. Today, it's the adults being kept down by the greed that's overtaken our society. So, there's so many stories in between these, and we'll share them over time. My story is a long story. I have plenty of time. That's why we do media, and we have to keep the messages going that matter to all of us, and the story that's important to you. You will never, ever be far from my mind, and I know that these stories are important to you because they give you that perception where I'm coming from. It helps you. It helps me help you even. So then I never seen him again after that. We never talked again. He got up and he left. From that seat, he was banished and gone forever, never to come back. All I could ever do was dream about him. And of course, he wouldn't talk to me anymore after that. And he was a good friend. And I let fear do that. That hurt me for a long time. To not know what could have been. Even during that time, I would watch him have sleepovers with other friends, and I could have been part of that. And I dreamed and wished I could have been at that time. And then came my next crush, which was actually a celebrity crush, which is funny. People laugh at me because it lasted for so long. But when you're in a closet and you're growing up gay and you're me, the happy healer, Keith, weirdo, not really, I just love, but I stay committed to whatever I'm doing, and I can't have these people hating me. And I say, I need you in my life, and then they find out one thing, they're done with you, and I don't understand that. So I hit it. And I like Jonathan Taylor Thomas. That was a big 90s crush for a lot of teenage girls and gay boys like me. And then whatever happened to him, he just fell off the face of this earth. If you don't know who he is, he plays the middle son on Home Improvement back in the 90s. They're trying to get a reboot going, which I would love to see. I love that show. It's a great show. And I like all the characters on there. And during that time, I remember I started liking him when I went to stay with my godmother when I was 16. And up until then, it was just Jimmy Bozeman. I had a crush on him all that time. And we weren't talking or anything. It was just stuck with me for a long time. And you know those crushes at that age, they're so intense. We care so much. We leave each other in the gutter when we need care. I needed care at that age. Nobody understood me. I had to figure things out. I felt so alone. And in so many ways right now, I still feel alone. And that's why I come out, because I know what's right. And that all of our spirits need to come out. I'm speaking to you from that spiritual perspective, and you know it, from that honest broker of truth. Which is such a larger truth than just the experiences I'm even talking about now, if you think about it. It's so special to think of that. We share so much, and we don't have to own all the ailments and problems with our bodies. We don't even have to have that self-conscious feeling when you know who you really are. In fact, when you know who you really are, you begin to start to see, wow, there's a solution for racism right there. We're all the same. And we use these bodies. These bodies are our vessels here. And we're using them wrong. We should be a lot more friendly with each other and loving. So I moved on to New York, Stony Point, and I stayed up there for a year. And I stayed with my godmother, whereas in Florida was extreme poverty, missing so much school in 1 year, missing so many days. And I did good at missing about 50 days of school. And it was tough. And by the time we got up to New York, well, just myself, my mom sent me there. An act of love. An act of love. My mother sent me there for opportunity. She didn't have much. Trust me, she didn't want to send her happy healer away. I love my mommy so dear, and she's gone as of 2012. She died right there. That's why I love my home. It's a magical place. People that come here, they feel that. And I've had over 2,500 people here in the last about 3.5 years now. Because before that, then I had one guest that just hurt me so bad. I paid the price on that. But it's okay. You just keep loving. You pass those tests and you keep loving. Don't ever let your spirit die. I'm telling you a long and hurtful story of mine, in that I just overcame everything with love. My love was so strong. And I started loving people. And that's what we're here meant to do. That's why I say sometimes that covenant just between two people sells short so many others. And I have a large capacity to love. And so here's my thinking. We have to just learn to love and be open. We don't have to actually hate each other ever. And we can do things on that level. You can have so much on that level alone. It doesn't have to define other parts of your life. You can love. That's a great thing. So, New York, I went from missing 54 school days and special education courses, Florida, to then getting mainstreamed, and getting my GPA up really high actually, almost a 4.0. And for being in that extreme situation change, I was considered one of their best and brightest students. And that is the story of your happy healer. Hardship and triumph over tragedy, but then still tragedy compounds. But then we come back anyway. That's why I love my quote, true heroism is not defined by those who fought but never fell. It's defined by those who fought and fell and rose again. Never forget that. It's so important in life. You know, this is all so deep to me, my life. And to break it out and to just start talking about it really does help you understand where I'm coming from. And that I have a very strong history, that I have a very strong attachment to. We can't forget about our history, folks. We are sold so cheap, and we can't be sold cheap. We matter. And when you matter, your history matters. Everything about you matters. Think about the differences. Right now, when you don't matter, you have a hard time justifying why you want to do something. But you matter. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and call it an evening for this night. But this is a continuation. Like, we've already talked about so many things, and I have a pretty good memory. I remember the things I talked about, and I'm trying not to cover things too much. But it's not bad to recover things because people sometimes need that. And other people haven't heard it yet. So I'm very meticulous in the way I do that. You notice, I'm sure many of you have been following. We'll see you soon. God bless you. And from your Happy Healer Love, I love you. God bless and good night.